I know I'm later than several people on the Mad Max review, but given this game's content and the view I could get from taking my time with it, I thought it was worth it. Being loosely tied to the last critically acclaimed movie, the latest vision of Avalanche Studios on the open world genre has gotten mixed results from critics, but a lot of praise from gamers. I have over 25 hours in the game at this point, and am finally ready to give you my impressions of the sand-ridden world ruled by the rigs that inhabit it. Also note this though, this review will be a tiny bit different than my normal reviews, as I will be using my experimental scoring system that I did when I first started this channel. I'll put a link for some information about what that means here, as I believe the weaknesses of scoring systems in general were exposed by Mad Max in particular. The story starts off as Max loses his car at the hands of Scrotus, but only after giving him a little bit of a headache. Max then comes across Chumbucket, a mechanic who's attempting to build something called the Magnum Opus. Basically, it's the best car anyone has ever seen. You are attempting to make your way across the land, and so you and him go on a mission in an attempt to complete both of your goals while making friends and, of course, enemies along the way. In terms of the story, that's the first major disappointment that the game doesn't deliver on. While the universe that Mad Max creates here is strong, with interesting characters complemented by their designs, the writers never include a reasonable amount of detail to go along with it. They never dive deep into the elements that make a character really interesting, or go into backstories that often, which could have been easily done in this kind of medium. Which is really disappointing, because the setting and the environment had a lot of potential in this area. Understanding why Pink Eye, for example, is in a gas-powered wheelchair, and how she grew to be the interesting character that she is would have been great. Despite that, claims that there are no strong female characters in this game is something I don't agree with, Polygon. While the voice acting is competent, it's the dialogue that really suffers in the long run here. Sure, you get moments like with Griffa and your spiritual journey, but overall, it's more the wasted potential here that's really disappointing, as I do think some better writing and more digging into the characters could have been easily done and launched this game to new heights. However, there is one saving grace within the writing here: Chumbucket.
No. She's knowledge from the numinous, divinely inspired. She wills herself upon this world. Look! See? Here, divine meets tri-shaft and a symbiosis of faith. Modded and made to measure. You want some of that old-time religion, huh? I got a classic whammy turbo high dog. Huh? Hell yeah! Bulletproof and torture tested. Aesthetically upgraded with Chumbucket overdrive.
Your black-fingered mechanic friend stands out with his dialogue and car-based worship, acting as a religious fanatic while praising your work and worrying about the future and the Magnum Opus. His comments during missions and while you drive along is not only welcome, it was sorely needed, as he becomes the face of the game for the most part. In particular, his ability to react to your in-world exploits, like driving off a cliff and taking flight, adds a level of immersion the game sorely needed. Chum was the most interesting character by a wide margin, and will bring a smile to your face as you can feel his excitement and get behind what he's preaching. In other words, praise be to the writing of Chumbucket.
Praise be! Praise be!
But of course, despite an interesting setting and backdrop of the world, you're probably here for the gameplay content, and what you can do with your superpowered vehicle of destruction. And to say that there's a lot to do would be a bit of an understatement. Now, the game follows a formula, but within that formula, there's a bunch of different options. The basic structure is like this. You'll reach a stronghold as the story missions guide you along, and that stronghold will open up new missions and things to do. With your beauty of a car, you'll drive along gathering not only more equipment for her, but you'll push her to the limit of post-apocalyptic automobiles. You'll do favors to recruit allies, and gather scrap to upgrade strongholds and yourself as well. As you drive along, you'll find locations that you can find items to scavenge from, or even parts to create upgrades at your stronghold with, which in turn will unlock more upgrades for you and more missions, and give you rewards when you go back to Mother Base. You'll want to discover the hot air balloon locations first, to get a lay of the land, to see what options are within the line of sight for you to discover and to take advantage of. You'll run across enemy camps that you'll have to liberate to generate more scrap for you on a timely basis. Scrap is the main currency of the game, used to buy your upgrades left and right. These for me were the highlight of the open world nature of the game, as you had to figure out your way past the defenses and work your way to get what was in the compound. In addition to those camps, you'll find scarecrows and sniper nests to tear down to reduce threat in an area associated with the stronghold. As you lower threat in an area, more upgrades for your car and yourself will unlock, so you'll want to do at least some of them in order to beef up your chances on taking on the bigger challenges in the game. There are races to run, catapults to destroy, and even ramps to drive off of. If you're looking for a lot to do, Mad Max has the elements of the open world in terms of time sinks down, as with 4 major strongholds, lots of scraps and upgrades to find, as well as different paint jobs and bodies to customize your car and yourself, you'll get hours and hours out of the game in question. But therein lies the rub. There is a lot to do, don't get me wrong. It's a lot of the same things to do though. This can be a shortcoming of open world games in general, of course, but in particular, it presents itself within the walls of Mad Max. The thing that I noticed rather quickly was the game was really designed to be played in short sessions at a time. It even reinforced that with upgrades that actually collect scrap while you're not playing if you have an online connection. When your experience is in short bursts, the open world still feels fresh. But as you play longer and longer sessions, you'll get a sense that you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. Sadly, it also doesn't have the open world fun factor like a game like Just Cause 2 had. Compared to a game like that, this feels a bit dull in the open world. One example of this is the idea of scrap collecting to get your upgrades. It can be rather tedious, and while it's the lifeblood of the game in terms of those upgrades, you'll only earn bits at a time in most cases. And it creates a poor game flow as well, as you find yourself starting and stopping repeatedly to get out of the car to search for more junk. I will say that the level design helps out a lot. While you'll notice a couple of elements, in particular with underground locations that have similar room parts, the bases and outdoor locations reconfigure the elements created for this world rather well, as no 2 bases really feel the same. In fact, you can get some really unique bases as well. The game looks rather nice, especially in the desert-like areas where you can see out to the horizon for miles. Looking at little details such as the fort's construction creates a sense that this world's shelters has been pieced together like a mother bird would piece their nest together. It adds some authenticity to this world and helps enforce the themes that the series is going for. Sure, there's an ugly texture here and there, but quite frankly, if you're noticing it, you're looking too hard for it at this point. I'm also happy to report that Avalanche Studios has delivered on the PC side of things in terms of performance. Not only are the options that a PC gamer would want to maximize his experience are present here, but in terms of the performance overall, it's fantastic. Rarely does the game ever lag, and you can get up to 120 FPS in certain areas if you've got the power in your rig to do it. The frame rate is solid, even with larger weather effects that the game throws at it, and frankly, it apparently blows the PS4 and the Xbox One in performance and graphics out of the water. This is what a PC version of a game should be, and I'm glad they did this in-house. The PC Master Race would approve of this game. Now, not to say that the game doesn't have its odd or technical problems, all games do, but they knew where to optimize here. Too many games attempt to be realistic in some portrayals of the games in terms of graphics and making sure it doesn't take the player out of the experience, that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy for that game. That's not the case here with Mad Max. Sure, if you're looking closely, you can see Max's hands with certain upgrades clipping through the can of dog food he's eating, but frankly, only if you're truly paying attention to it. It doesn't sacrifice little things like that for the overall performance like other games do nowadays, and I love Avalanche Studios for it. It understood what it needed to sacrifice and where it didn't, and a lot of studios don't know how to do that these days. Working off that, I will say that about the tone of this game, the game goes too far out of its way to go for a realistic element. Yes, I say this even when you have something like this happen, but it's more about complementing gameplay and in particular pacing with gameplay. For example, having to travel back to the stronghold to get a buggy to deal with mines specifically with your dog friend may feel realistic, but it's a pain when you come across the explosives in the world and have to go back. It's more of a chore. It hurts the overworld experience in this case due to the fact that it stops your natural exploration of the game. It's certain elements like this that can create this inconsistent experience. Now, the most unique portion of Mad Max is of course the magnum opus, and in particular, the car combat that you'd expect about a game that literally has a religion based on cars. And I'm happy to say that car combat, well, it does the job for the most part. You've got a couple of options in vehicular combat. Of course, you can go with the tried and true method of using the laws of physics and understanding that two objects can't necessarily occupy the same space. And if you don't get what I'm referring to, I'm meaning ramming your car into others. Hitting specific parts of the car will cause them to change direction or even spin out. Your car isn't necessarily a beast at first while driving without upgrades, as you too can be spun out or have trouble with different terrain types, and it really does add to some challenge the game has. Handling can be problematic, however, as even with full upgrades, there were times that I spun out that really didn't make a lot of sense. It also is weird that this game had no handbrake. While on the roadways, engaged in twisted metal mayhem, you can fire your shotgun at enemy barrels in the back of their cars, making you wonder why they have that many explosives in the back of their cars. But no, the best part of combat here will be something you get early on, and that's your harpoon. You're able to fire your harpoon at cars early on to influence where they go at times, but it's also able to rip off car doors, or even the driver out of a car. As you get more skilled and get more upgrades, you'll be able to attach the fenders and boost right into the back of the cars, damaging them, or even rip tires right off of it. Sometimes that can be overpowered, however, it's balanced at times with cars with multiple layers of armor and different upgrades that they can have. These fights as a whole do the job, as no encounter necessarily feels the same twice, as the numbers in terms of enemies are just right to give you enough of a challenge without feeling overloaded at times, especially when you have the right upgrades for it. In particular, when dealing with convoys, the ideas of making your way through a series of cars and attempt to take out the lead one is fantastic when it works. But don't take it easy. Your car, even though it can be upgraded, can still be taken down with the right amount of damage, forcing you to exit when it's about to explode. While Chum Bucket can repair it while you aren't driving, you are then at the mercy of the cars around you at times, as you can become flat as a pancake while doing it. The other portion of combat has to do with the foot combat that takes its cues from the Batman Arkham series, but it's not got the gadgets that series is known for. Now, in terms of the basic combat, it follows the formula to a certain degree, yet adds and takes away a couple of things. Power strikes are much more important to break through defenses here, and the addition of using walls and getting extra hits in while doing it adds a little bit more flair to it. Warcriers who are suspended above the action can cry out to buff opponents, but a nice shotgun blast silences them rather easily. As Max levels up, you'll start to see wrestling moves come out, especially in his Fury mode. When Max builds enough rage up from attacking his opponents, he'll go into a mode where he strikes harder and does more damage overall. Along with upgrades that can help fully take advantage of the mode, enemies can fall left and right while going into this rage mode. However, one of the major problems that the combat suffers from is simple: variety. Max's movesets and tools are limited, and while he has a shotgun and shivs that can take out single enemies, the combat system is limited even more than the Arkham games due to a lack of tools for Max to use at his disposal. While it's competent, it only really changes in numbers over times, as while yes, shield enemies are introduced for example, enemy variety is few and far between. Even the top dogs, the mini bosses of this wasteland, all play the same rather in the end. While Max is no Batman and giving him too many fighting options in battle may have not fit the character, the enemies themselves and their crazy nature could have easily been taken advantage of to add a lot of variety. Sooner or later, you'll want to get back to your car. Quickly. You see, one of the major problems with this iteration of combat, however, is the camera itself. Some people have stated that they wonder why the camera in the Batman Arkham games is so pulled back, why it's not closer to the action to make it feel more cinematic. Well, there's a reason for this. It's because the player needs to understand the entire fight's surroundings, in particular, who's sneaking up on him, ready to throw an attack that they have to be ready to counter. You see, the start of one of those animations of a thug lining up for a swing, you know to get ready for a counter. Simple. But that's where Mad Max fails. See, the combat is brought in closer, and in particular, walls and tight spaces give the camera problems. This leads to the inevitable, having an enemy come off screen and you having limited time to react to the counter. This leads to frustration, as a good chunk of the damage that I usually took came from this issue, and felt like it was completely outside of my control. It doesn't play to the strength of the combat in question, and unfortunately has way too much of it to really be beneficial in the long run. Overall, Mad Max is a collection of strengths and weaknesses that hits pretty heavy on all elements of the spectrum in terms of its quality. Its strong performance, its endless amount to do, and its level design highlights the quality that Avalanche Studios is capable of putting into a game on par with some of the best open world experiences out there. But its lack of using the source material wisely, repetition of elements, and lack of understanding their ground combat system holds the game back. Mad Max on the PC lands a base viability score of 75 for me, which puts it on a game worth getting now if you're really desperate for a game, but in most cases means to wait for a sale. However, with this review type, I always include enhancers, which tries to pinpoint exactly what kind of gamer you are and who will really like or dislike this game. Add 10 to this score if you plan on playing the game in short bursts, in hour segments at a time, but take away 10 points if you tend to beat games in one sitting. The amount of time that you spend in the game in terms of the sessions really hurts this game or helps this game in the overall picture. The fact of the matter is, the mundane portion of it can feel a lot fresher if you take a little bit of a break here and there. Take about 8 points as the adaptation of the world of Mad Max, in particular with Fury Road, is critical for you. It never gets to the point of Fury Road in terms of the overall narrative, and unfortunately doesn't really do well with its characters except for Chumbucket. Add about 5 points to the score if performance on the PC makes a huge difference for your enjoyment of the game, and if you have the rig that can really take advantage of next-gen games. And add 5 points of content length, even with the idea that it may not be the different content over the period of time, really makes a difference in terms of a bang for buck in terms of a purchase. Anyway, that is Mad Max for you. Again, I'm always taking feedback, and if you would like to see things changed on the channel, or have any comments or suggestions for this review, leave them in the comments below. If you thought the video was helpful, leave a like, or share with a friend or two to help out the channel, and if you want more content like this, hit that subscribe button, because that can always help with that. This is Dragnix signing out, hoping that harpooning an enemy in a game like Mad Max can bring you enjoyment as it did me. Later. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you like this content and want to see more of it, you may want to hit that subscribe button on the left hand side. If you like this video and want to see more of this content, take a look at this video on the left hand side as well. And if you'd missed my last video, take a look at the right hand side. Once again, thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.